There is a gap between the version of ourselves we project and the reality operating underneath. We spend our days convinced we are the mask, while an entirely different signal runs quietly beneath the surface. Researcher Robert Monroe investigated this gap, searching for what he called the missing basic, the foundational, true direction of the human mind. Monroe modeled the mind like an onion. At the absolute center sits a pure source of original identity. As we develop, that source is buried under thick layers of biological instincts and social context, which distort the light as it moves outward. Because almost everything we observe is covered in a sheen of deception, isolating our true identity requires a deliberate unlayering of this systemic interference. At the very center of this model lies the core self, the intrinsic human mind, operating without its typical limitations. This core contains every lived emotion, every forgotten dream, and your non-physical activities, along with elements Monroe believed were carried over from previous lives. The first layer of interference pushing against this core is the animal sub-self. This physiological layer acts as a rigid filter, discoloring the original mental signal with primal, survival-based instincts. Monroe identifies the mammalian brain, the reptilian brain, and the limbic system as the physical structures responsible for this first level of contamination. Monroe frames this biology as a thick boundary, the physical mechanism your thoughts must navigate before they can reach the outside world. Further out sits the conscious mind, an unstable layer defined by what you think you are. Next is the human mind external, driven by the constant anxiety over how we are perceived by others. This layer is a mixture of intuition and cultural context, a source of friction that Monroe blames for much of our internal dysfunction. At the outermost visible edge is the human mind role, a deceptive mask we wear to manipulate the perceptions of those around us. Beyond the self lies a final, invisible boundary called human mind radiation, composed of the thoughts everyone else has ever had about you. This field includes thoughts from those who no longer inhabit a physical body, expanding the volume of this interference into a vast, silent history. Most daily human interaction is just social static and external radiation, masking the authentic signal operating beneath. If the noise is this thick, how can we detect the core self at all? Monroe looked for behavioral anomalies, specific moments when the internal signal successfully breaks through the outer layers. These appear in flashes of genuine emotion, such as the uncontainable joy of a big grin, or the wordless recognition passing between two people in a soft smile. We also see it in beauty beholding, where the clean appreciation of something like the Golden Gate Bridge triggers a response that bypasses our biological filters. Nostalgia functions as an origin memory, a welling up of a deep desire to return to the source of that original signal. The most distinct indicator is anonymous giving, providing service to others with zero expectation of recognition or social reward. These selfless or joyful interruptions suggest that the internal signal remains intact, capable of occasionally piercing through the layers of daily static. To understand the strongest of these signals, Monroe used a rote, a package of compressed knowledge specifically regarding the nature of love. This knowledge describes love as something that cannot be taught, but is instead generated internally through shared life experience. Monroe identifies this as the Big L, a bond distinct from romance, best exemplified by the protective depth of mother love. Genuine friendship operates on a similar frequency, rooted in the same shared experience that generates the internal signal. The primary trait of this bond is its resilience. It survives physical death and cannot be extinguished during life, though the noise of the other layers may hide it. This indestructible core self is the missing basic that provides our foundational direction. We have mapped the interference. Now a final challenge remains. How do you get to know your true unmasked self?